Hey friends, welcome to Dishing on Divorce Next Chapter on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio, Podcasts, and TV. I'm your host, Lisa Lisser, CEO and founder of LZL Coaching, a boutique coaching firm focused on divorce, relationships, and life transitions. I'm also a divorced mom of 3 now grown kids, a recovering lawyer, a current educator, a co-parenting specialist, and a spiritual counselor. I pride myself in my vision of being the divorce coach who's committed to transforming the divorce experience for everyone involved. So here's the thing. When you get divorced, after you get divorced, you have an opportunity to start over. You have a next chapter. And sometimes people going through divorce are so mired in the fear and overwhelm that they overlook this very real opportunity. You get to write your next chapter. And life is a journey. We have many twists and turns, whether we're married, single, divorced, widowed, or however we walk through life. And our mindset and how we approach those twists and turns is our choice. Today's guest, Alyssa Dineen, is all about mindset and style and how we walk through the world when we're looking for that next chapter. She's also my friend and fellow post-divorce journeyer. Welcome, Alyssa.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. So let me share with the audience a little bit about you. So Alyssa Dineen is a published author and the founder of Style My Profile, a transformative service created to help online daters feel more confident and empowered as they navigate the modern dating world. With over 25 years of experience as a fashion editor, stylist, and art director, Alyssa established herself as a seasoned leader in the New York fashion world. In the past decade, she's also emerged as a pioneering figure in the online dating space, something we all know and sometimes fear to go. Her innovative approach combines her expertise in styling with her insights into dating, guiding clients on everything from personal presentation to effective communication with potential partners. As an acclaimed dating expert, Alyssa has been featured in the New York Times, The Today Show, Goop, and Oprah Daily. She's also the author of The Art of Online Dating, published by HarperCollins in 2021, which offers valuable strategies for success in online dating. You can find more information about Alyssa and Style My Profile services at stylemyprofilegyc.com. Now, Alyssa focuses on all things related to online dating and beyond, and she has just launched her own limited series podcast, The Dating Lab. I'm really excited to bring Alyssa back to Dishing on Divorce Next Chapter because not only is she my friend, but I've been using some of her tools. So we're going to talk about that as we go deeper into the conversation. But first, welcome, Alyssa.
Thank you. That was such a great intro. Wow.
My pleasure. I only have very esteemed guests on my show.
And I love to hear that you've been using you've used the DIY kit and you implemented it for yourself. So I want to hear all about it.
Yeah, well, when I find someone who I think has real tools, I want to use them and road test it. And, I benefit from it in every way. So I really want to share that. But first, before we get into that part of the story, I want to hear your story so that our audience knows who they're talking to, what your experience is, and what led you to be this online dating coach.
Absolutely. Okay, so when I got divorced myself and wanted to start dating, I tried the usual route where I asked friends to set me up, and that happened one time, and I quickly realized I needed to go online like most everybody else. And I didn't have any other divorced friends yet. I was the first out of my, group of friends, and I had a couple of single friends that had never been married. So I kind of reached out to them, like, what do I do? And I think for somebody who's been doing it for a long time, they weren't much help because they were just like, here, you just put up some pictures and, let me download Tinder on your phone and throw up some pictures there. And you don't even need a bio. And that was really the only explanation I got. And so I was kind of like thrown to the wolves. And I felt like that. I really didn't know what I was doing. I, had 3 photos up there, no bio. Like I said, I didn't know what to write to people. There was just a huge learning curve, right? And I felt like it really took me about a good 6 months to really get the hang of it and kind of know what I was doing and not feel like I was the newbie who didn't know what I was doing, basically. So after that period, I really did, coming from a fashion and photo background, I did know what photos to put up, and I did those. I learned how to take a selfie, remembered to take photos when I was out with friends, finally, all of those things. So I felt like I had good photos up. And, and I did kind of learn my way through messaging and went on a lot of dates. And as I say, I went on nearly 100 dates and in about a little over 2 years. And I finally did meet my partner, and we're still together. It's been 8.5 years. And we met on Tinder, actually, and I'll get to that in a minute, because Tinder at the time was where people really were meeting still.
Mhm.
Now it's a little bit more back to being a hookup app, but I think that actually might be shifting again, so we'll talk about that. But anyway, we met on Tinder, and he was also divorced, and we shared our stories, we shared our experiences online, and we were both saying how most people in our age group kind of didn't seem to really know what they were doing and didn't have great profiles for the most part, and no one really had great photos. I think, when you get divorced after 20, 30 years, all of your photos are with your kids or with your ex, right? It's not like
Yep.
you've been taking selfies. So, so we talked about that experience and just feeling like, as a stylist, we were joking around that I should reach back out to people online and say, I can help you. I can help you, revamp your look and feel more confident and have better photos. So that's really how the idea came about, was that I wanted to help people style their profiles. And that's why, I named my business Style My Profile for that reason. And initially, it really was just about helping people find their personal style again. After you've been married for a while, you kind of, things change. You kind of just don't get as interested in presenting yourself maybe in the best way. And so I felt like it was a good way for people to kind of just, revamp their look, feel confident, know what photos to put in there, but also know what to wear on a date, that kind of thing. And so I did that, but then it really did evolve so quickly, because I realized that once these people got up and running online, they were like, wait, okay, now I'm matching with all these people because my profile looks great, but I don't know what to do from here. So
Yeah.
what else do I do? So then it was like helping people messaging, helping people get to the first date, all of those things. And then as you know, now I'm a full-blown dating coach, and that really was an evolution of just helping people with mindset, keeping people accountable, keeping people staying motivated. It does get tedious, it does get annoying, it honestly, it can be a lot of very bad negative things. But it can also be positive in trying to keep people staying in a positive mindset, because that is really key, and encouraging people to take breaks when they need them, and then when they feel ready, getting back up online. So that is how I am where I am today.
Well, that's a lot, but that's so real, right? Like having the experience, recognizing what worked, what didn't work, and then finding the pot of gold at the end of the tunnel, because you did find your match. And so we know that it's possible.
Yeah.
Um, I find that with a lot of my clients, with myself, with my friends, people get exhausted because it feels like there's never anyone out there. And one thing I've noticed in the years that I've been doing the online dating is that um, it gets hard. Like my profile might have been updated and I may have styled my profile, but the men that are out there may not have done the same thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's
Mm-hmm.
a little hard to find that. But that's sort of like, I'm jumping the gun here. I want to share with the audience that um, as a scientific experiment, I wanted to collect data. And so I signed up for Alyssa's do-it-yourself profile kit, and I wanted to talk about it. I mean, there's a lot that we have to talk about, but I think that that could be a great place to start.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
so why don't you start explaining what's in the do-it-yourself kit, and then I'll talk about my experience.
Sure. So in the kit, we have a photo guide. So what kind of photos you need, how to take them, reminding you of ways that, reminding you to take selfies, but you need to practice. And, until you've practiced a lot, don't post selfies on there, because generally if you don't know what you're doing, they kind of look that way. Making sure you have good lighting, making sure you have a good background. So it's really just a photo guide from top to bottom, knowing, how to do that. And generally, I recommend people like grabbing a friend or a family member and really spending several hours doing a photo shoot together. And it can just be with an iPhone or, just your phone. That's fine. So there's the photo guide. There's the bio writing guide. There's a there's a kind of Mad Lib style bio writing guide. And then there's the writing down things about yourself, your unique attributes, the quirkiest thing about you. All of those things are helpful to write your own bio to stand out. You really do, people are swiping through hundreds of profiles and they all tend to say very similar things. And so you really want yours to stand out and be authentic to you, but unique in some way. And everybody has something unique about them. So I truly believe that. So just really focusing on what's unique about you and representing that in your bio. We also have messaging tips so that once you're online and you're messaging with people, a guide for that. We have a dating diary, which I think is really helpful to do really when you initially start dating. It's really helpful because it, has different exercises like writing down 10 qualities that you really want in a partner that are not superficial qualities, real values. And there's exercises like, what are your amazing qualities about you? Because it's always a good reminder, especially if you're feeling down or rejected or ghosted or whatever has happened. It's good to remind yourself why you're unique and amazing. And yeah, just a lot of good guides and tips and tip sheets that kind of help you along the way. So I think that we designed it so that you can really go top to bottom. Bottom to top, I guess, and putting together your profile in the best way. And it can also be used if you already have a profile, you can kind of go through and say, okay, I have that, but I don't have that, or I need to work on my bio more or my messaging skills. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but so I want to share with the audience that I bought the kit and I did road test it. And so many of the features that I thought I was doing something right, but I just needed to just give it a little twist.
Yeah.
I liked my pictures, but I noticed that maybe my pictures were a little bit outdated because in the course of my online dating history, I had met a couple of people who became long-term relationships, and then that ended. And that's sort of what inspired me to start, because a 2.5-year relationship concluded. So jumping right back in.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do it with intentionality this time. So,
Right.
so that's why I decided to take the plunge with the do-it-yourself kit. And it was really fun, but it also is challenging, right? It's
Good.
challenging to think about, how do I share my unique qualities without being too vulnerable? Right?
Yeah.
How do I share certain of my passions if I don't want to be political? And politics is a big thing that's out there these days. And some of the apps are rejecting something if they decide it's political, even if you don't think it is political. So
Yeah.
it's really interesting. You recommend going on to different platforms, just so you can sort of get a sense of, even they give you different ways to describe yourself. So
Yeah.
I chose Bumble and Hinge. I
Yeah.
had been on Bumble before, but I had never been on Hinge, and they have different kinds of prompts. And what I liked about Hinge actually was that when I wrote something in response to a prompt and I was using the do-it-yourself guide, they said things like, "Great answer. You asked a question at the end." So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I want you to share with the audience what that means and why that's so powerful.
Yeah, they really want you to give detail. So instead of saying, I love Italian food, you could say, my favorite dish to make is, cacio e pepe served with blah blah blah. They want you to be more specific, so that gets a good reaction. And then if you end with a question like, "What's your favorite Italian, pasta dish?" Whatever, that engages people because if people see a question, most likely they want to answer it. People like to talk about themselves. So
Yeah.
essentially
Yeah.
that's like, so it is good to have at least one prompt ending in a question or something that really gets people to want to give an answer to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which I really appreciated because I definitely didn't have that before. And I think about how I coach, and I always am asking questions. And so why would this be any different, right?
Hmm.
When you're trying to engage in an online conversation, you can't just say, you know, pizza's my favorite food, right? You need to do
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
than say that.
Exactly. And give more detail. Yeah.
Right. And even if you say that and then say, what's your favorite food? It's not a good conversation. It's just boring, right? It's
Yeah.
just,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know, um, so so that was sort of my beginning of using the tools. It's interesting you mentioned the Mad Libs because I did try to use it, but part of me felt like, am I being too cutesy? Is that really me? I don't know.
Yeah,
So
and it may not resonate with you, and that's important. You want it to be authentic to you. So if it feels forced, then definitely yeah, then it's not for you.
right, right.
But then I've had other clients say, oh, it really got me, kind of out of my head about what to write. And it was just like, okay, fill in the blank. And then it was just, something to put up there.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's helpful for some people and others not.
right.
So,
And figuring out which one works for you.
yeah.
It's also part of the sifting process, right? When you're describing yourself, you're sifting out what you're going to share online. And in
Hmm.
the process, that sifts out who's going to respond to you.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And you really want to be, you know, the weird you, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
yeah,
Like you want to be really you because you want to weed people out. You don't want to be generic so that everybody swipes on you. You want to attract the people that are going to appreciate you for you.
right,
So it
right,
really is important.
right. So, and that made me think of the burnt haystack method, which I may want to
Mhm.
talk to you about. But we're at about halfway through. So we're going to take a quick 30-second
Okay.
break to hear from our sponsors. So we'll be back with Alyssa Dineen. And we're back with Alyssa Dineen, online dating specialist and expert. Um, so, Alyssa, the last thing I mentioned when we went off to break was the burnt haystack method. So, I know I saw you discussing it in one of your emails, and so I'm wondering, tell us what that is, tell us what you think about it, and tell us how does that actually sync with your tools in online dating?
Yeah. Well, I think the most important takeaway from the burn haystack method is to trust your gut. I think that's what really resonated with me the most because when I discovered Jenny Young from she developed the burn haystack method. And for those of you who don't know what it is, she's her PhD in rhetoric and discourse, and she breaks down what men say in their dating profiles and in their messaging to identify red flags. And it's actually much easier than you'd think. It sounds like, how would I be? But once you kind of learn the tactics and what she's looking for, you really can identify them a lot quicker than, I think back to when I was dating and I feel like I could have avoided a lot of annoying slash, difficult people. But I think when I discovered her method, what I liked about it is that it really she really did put a name to what we were all feeling in online dating with men. And it's that it was just becoming really over sexualized. People that hadn't even met you yet were already sexualizing you, and it was just, and I was telling her, I interviewed her for my first episode of my podcast. And I was telling her how when I first started dating again, it had been so long, I was just like, oh, well, I guess this is just how modern dating is. I guess this is just how it is. Like, and I just, you just kind of tolerate it
Yeah.
and not really think that much of it, because you think, oh, everybody else is dealing with this, I guess it's normal. And so she's really put a name to what we were all feeling. And of course there's like, there is the extremism of it, and where women are really like, I'm never online dating again. It's, I don't subscribe to that, because I feel like if you follow the method, which is just identifying red flags early on so that you don't have to go on a date with that person. And it's basically, it's an energy saver. So, and most of us do have a gut feeling, whether it's in their profile or once you start messaging with them, or maybe it's even in the first date, you get a gut feeling about someone and you can't quite, like, you're just like, something wasn't right about when he said this, and you ignore it most of the time. I think a lot of women just ignore it. So it's really empowering women, I think, to not ignore those signs and really trusting your gut and knowing, what to look for in profiles with red flags, which again, it saves a lot of anguish and energy, really.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And what I have noticed is I always wanted to give them a chance, right? Like that was something that I felt like if we had a kind of okay conversation and the texting and then maybe a phone call, like I don't want to keep on texting, like let's just meet for coffee or a drink and then we'll see. I'd rather meet someone in person. And sometimes that method, I met someone, I could have had a red flag that person was not for me, but I was curious. And so I don't consider it a waste of a date or time. And I will share with everyone, in the first 3 months of my using the do-it-yourself profile, I had no problem getting dates. I was matching. I was having decent conversations. I went out with new people every week, to be perfectly honest.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that. And it really can, it really can make a difference in your experience if you're starting with a strong profile, right? It's like, if you're starting with just kind of like, I think it's okay, and maybe these pictures are fine, you're already starting from a place that's not, well, it doesn't have a good foundation. It's, online dating is hard enough. You want to know that you're starting with really strong photos and a really strong bio that really describes you. End of story. And you did that. And I think it really, it really paid off.
Yeah, definitely. But also your tools enable people to really do that. So what you had described just a little while ago was, what are your unique, quirky characteristics? What do other people love about you? What do you love about you? And what are your values? Like I always start with my clients saying, what are your values? Because that defines who you are. And sometimes we walk away from that and forget who we are. So your tools let the user refine how they see themselves, because maybe they see themselves in a really less than stellar light because they feel all of this loss and pain and all these different things.
Absolutely.
And so using the tools helps you reframe who you are and like say, okay, I'm going to know me so that I can put that person in front of the world.
Right.
And I don't reveal everything, but I only have a few characters anyway. So I got to be really specific.
Yeah, I know. And in a way, having it such a short space, such a small amount of space, it really does make you kind of have to hone in on what's unique and important to convey.
Right. And like sometimes, like, what are you looking for? You say, I want someone with a sense of humor. But if you have a sense of humor in your profile, then you don't have to say it. Right?
Yes. Then you're going to attract somebody with a sense of humor. Yeah.
Right.
And also what I've learned after doing this for so long and working with a lot of people and seeing so many profiles is most people who say I have a great sense of humor don't. So that is, it's just funny. It's like people say the same types of things. I had a client recently tell me, and she's actually very, very funny too. And she was like, he said he had a great sense of humor in his profile. And then we went on a date. She was like, I didn't laugh one time. He wasn't funny at all.
Yeah.
Like, well, he thinks he's funny, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, it really is interesting. But that's a great point you brought up, because that is like a show, don't tell, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're attracting someone who gets your sense of humor is going to get your
Yeah.
your joke in the profile. So
Yeah. So I thought that was really powerful. And I want to also share another aspect of the Style My Profile Do It Yourself kit. Um, you have this style archetype that
mhm.
um, that I'd love you to share more about with the audience, because it helps us again redefine who we are and acknowledge who we are. So
Yeah. So we did a quiz called "What's Your Style Archetype?" And actually we developed it because when my book came out several years ago, The Art of Online Dating, we talked a lot about style and personal style and how to discover that. And I thought it would be fun. I was like, it would be fun to have a quiz. Like, who doesn't love a quiz? And, just for something fun to do. But people really identified with it. And I think it is interesting to see like what you gravitate towards. And I think everybody does have a personal style. It's whether or not you're honoring it or not, and expressing it. So yeah, I love that quiz actually.
yeah, I mean, we all know that when we're shopping and we put on a blouse that looks cute on the hanger, but then we put it on, we're like, this is so not me. Um,
Hmm.
but maybe it was like maybe you were attracted to it for a reason about something that was going on in your life. Like I have a child who's become more observant and religious. And I was shopping during that time when it first started, and I found a blouse, and it was so not me, but it was so that style. And I didn't even realize when I was taking it off of the shelf that I was sort of reflecting a style that was so unlike me, but
Yeah,
you
right.
know, but it's
Yeah.
what's going on in your life at that moment.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I talk about this too in my book, how I really had this like fantasy version of my single life, which was that I was going to be going out all the time and going to cocktail parties. I was going to be invited to a lot of cocktail parties where I didn't have to get dressed up. So I bought all these like, cute dresses and more dressy things that I never wore. And so I talk
Yeah.
a lot about like shopping for your real life, not your fantasy version of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big piece. So let's go into tactics too. So we've talked about a
Mhm.
lot of things, and I know I'm sort of all over the place. This is not a straight line, but one of the things you talk about is when you go on to the online sites, you should choose more than one. So tell
Yeah.
us about this and
Yeah.
why.
Exactly. This is important not to overwhelm people and say you should be on two dating apps because you'll meet more people. It's not necessarily for that, although that could be the case. We recommend doing two apps because, and they're generally Hinge and Bumble right now because those are the most used, most popular quantity of people. But the reason we recommend going on both is because the algorithms work differently. So in your same area, you may be seeing a great selection of people on Hinge and not at all on Bumble, and or vice versa. And we can't, there's no explanation for it. It just is what it is. So that's why I think it's good to do both and see which one you like better. And if you want to stay on both, great. And if eventually a couple months down the line you realize, okay, Bumble's way better for me, I'm seeing much better people, I'm just having more responses, all of that, then just stick with that. But it is important to try the two because of the algorithms. And the algorithms really are, for better or for worse, they're dominating the apps now. And so you really have to kind of figure out ways to work the algorithm.
So is that something that we should think about in terms of like SEO and, search engine optimization, or is it a
I
different kind of algorithm?
different algorithms,
Okay.
yeah, and each of the apps seems to, they operate on different algorithms too. But so another way you can quote unquote work the algorithm is, like you said, when you first got up and running with your new profile and your new photos, you had a flurry of activity, I'm sure, and lots of matches. That's really common because you're the new person. And so you're at the top of everybody's feed. But what that means is once it starts to kind of die down, a month or two down the line, change out your primary photo or change out several photos or change up your bio completely. Do something where the app basically sees you as kind of being, more active again, and they'll put you again to the top of the feed. So it is really important to change things up. And then another way that you can work the algorithm is going on consistently, because the apps reward the people that are on there the most. So, and I'm not saying you have to go on for hours every day. I'm talking 10 to 15 minutes every day.
Yeah.
Or every other day is okay too. And also the reason I recommend doing that is so that you can be responsive to messages, because that's the number one reason these things die out and you never get to a date is because, say you don't check the app for 2 days, you respond to somebody and then they don't check the app for 2 days. You've already lost the momentum. It's gone. Yeah. So you really do need to stay on top of it for the algorithm's sake, but also just to be responsive to people. And also you want to be responsive because you want them to be responsive back. It really is.
Well, if you're trying to meet someone, you want to be paying attention, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe the most important thing is that you want to meet someone who'll pay attention to you, and you want to have someone that you want to pay attention to. So
who matches your energy, and who, if you're responsive and they are too, it's going to move along a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
And another thing I just want to add to that, sorry, just want really quick, is, when you are messaging back and forth with somebody, don't let that drag on either. Get to the in-person date, or at least a phone call. You really need to get to the next level, the next platform, whether that's a phone call or in person. But you want to, ultimately, you don't want to keep messaging on the apps for weeks on end. And I see it happen all the time. People think they need to get to know someone you cannot get to know someone over an app. You simply can't.
No.
So,
yeah, that's great. I've had experiences where I've been texting on the app, but I have followed your lead. I don't want it to last more than a week. If it lasts more than a week, then we're not going on a date. It just isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And some people, it can go on for 3 days and you're like, wait a second, nothing is getting planned. So this is not something, this person isn't ready to date right now. And just accepting that and not.
Yeah. However, I do want to say that because I work with men too, and a lot of men are nervous to move too quickly, because a lot of women are like, whoa, we just started messaging 2 days ago. I need to get to know you better, which I don't understand that logic, because you're not getting to know somebody by text. It could literally be a robot for all you know. I mean, seriously, you don't know. So anyway, but women do, I see it happen all the time. A client just texted me yesterday showing me his text exchange. And he said, hey, would you want to meet for a drink and get to know each other better? And she got really defensive and and they'd been messaging for a long time too. And, so they're used to women who are maybe a little nervous. So you have to remember that they're kind of dealing with different paces of women. And as I tell my male clients, you have to go with the pace of the female, because they're the ones that are at risk here. We're the ones that are. Yeah. So, but basically it just means that you could prompt them. If you're ready to go on a date, you could say, hey, I'd love to take this conversation in person, and let them do the planning, but you can say let's meet in person, so, yeah.
No, that's really powerful, because sometimes people get hung up on who's supposed to do what first.
Yes.
I definitely have some friends who are like that, and who won't follow up if they didn't get a text right. If they didn't get a text back, then they're not going to send a second text in a row. And I think there are times to have a rule, and there are times to just say, get curious, what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, that's part of, maybe my coaching background, is that you got to be curious. Nothing is as clear cut as that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if that keeps happening, obviously that's
Right.
a sign. But yeah, if it happens once, I know
Yeah.
I'm more like you, where I'm like, okay, maybe I'll give one more chance, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so
And
yeah, I
think
mean, I think
yes.
sorry.
No, no, no. And that happened with me in one circumstance, like the day after a date, I texted, he had said, great time at the end of the date, we should do this again. And I texted in the morning and I didn't hear back. And I texted in the afternoon. And the response I got was, oh, that's not how I handle dating. And so I thought, okay, so that's not how I handle people. So he was not for me.
Yeah, right, right. And you know what?
So
You knew that right away,
I knew it
he
right away.
made it
So that
really
was
easy for you.
right, that made it a thank you. I mean, he didn't choose me, but then I was like, "Okay, I don't want to be chosen by that person." And
Yeah,
it
exactly.
takes a while to get there because it was
Exactly.
a little confusing, but, you know, better to know upfront.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So yeah.
Do we still have time? Because I just want to point out one other thing.
Yeah, so we have about 4 more minutes, so go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So one other thing I wanted, because you mentioned this earlier on in the conversation about how you said, you worked on your profile, you felt really good, it was so good, and then you were matching with a lot of people, and then a lot of men's profiles were not so great. And I want to just address that, because that is also very common. I mean, way more women are focusing on that kind of thing than men are. Look at all the people that come. I mean, way more women work with a coach than men do.
Right, right,
So you have to keep that in mind. And in our age group, most men do not know how to take photos of themselves. They don't have friends they can ask. So
yeah,
keeping that in mind, obviously you want someone who put a little bit of effort into their profile. But that being said, a lot of the success stories that I'm seeing now, and I see this a lot actually in the Burned Haystack Facebook group as well, a lot of the success stories are very similar in that the profile of the man didn't wow me. I see that a lot, and I hear that a lot in my coaching. Well, it was a little ho-hum. His profile was kind of boring. And that is my partner too. His profile was very ho-hum. His bio was very boring. He had one good photo, the rest were not good. And I gave him a chance. So I'm just saying that for women looking for men, sometimes the boring slash, so-so profiles doesn't necessarily mean he's not putting effort in, or, he's not into this. It could just mean that he simply doesn't know. And maybe
right,
in person, I mean, when I met my partner in person, he's like super, super dynamic and funny and all the things,
right.
but it did not come through on his profile at all. I mean,
No, I
zero.
totally hear you, and
Yeah.
I give grace in that. The things that when I say I really don't like the profile, like, I don't like it when they scribble out someone else's face who's in there, and
Yes.
and
Agreed.
and
Yeah.
when, I can't believe people are still holding fish, right?
I
Like
know. I
like,
know.
I don't understand,
I don't
and
understand how they're not reading literally every article that
I
comes out
I
saying
don't
not to do
understand,
that. But
and
yeah.
and the other really strange thing is I'm getting all of these older men who are riding motorcycles, and
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
just, that's your
Yeah.
thing, like,
Yeah.
and you know what? For some people, that could be a perfect
Yeah.
match.
And you know what? And for
But
you, that's a no. And
yeah,
that's actually great that they put that
yeah,
in their profile.
yeah, I guess so. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing.
So what I'm saying is, like, it shouldn't be a turnoff. So obviously a guy on a
Yeah,
motorcycle is a turnoff for you. And like you said, it might not be for someone else. So if it's not, obviously if it's a turnoff, then it's a no. But if it's something that's just sort of bland, or, a
right.
maybe, that's when I say give that person a chance.
Great,
Yeah.
great. Thank you so much. So you have a free offer or an offer for my audience,
Yeah,
so
we
go
have
ahead.
a discounted, well, we have a digital course called Mindful Dating 101, and we have I think it's 15 or 20% off, actually, I can't remember. And the code is going solo, I believe. Yeah. Yeah, so
Great,
it's Style My Profile NYC, and you go to courses, and it's the Mindful Dating 101, and then you type in the code when you check out, going solo.
great. So the code is going solo, and you're going to get a discount on a great digital course. Thank you so much, Alyssa. This has been so much fun and so
Yeah.
eye-opening. And I appreciate you walking through my experience so that everyone can sort of get a sense that, like, real people use this, real people have success, and then real people try again, because
Yeah.
that's what it means to be part
Yes.
of this dating experience in the 21st century. So,
100%. I love that. Thank you. Thanks for sharing your story, actually. That was
okay.
so interesting.
It's, you know what? My pleasure. I'm a real person and I want people to know. So thanks again. And we will be back in 2 weeks with Dishing on Divorce Next Chapter with another expert who is going to help us move our lives forward. Thanks again. Thanks for listening.